Welcome everyone, Simon here from the Whales of Wall Street. Today's video, we are going to be diving into how blockchain is reshaping the global energy sector. I will mention quickly, we have done introductory videos to this kind of topic in the past. So this will be a relatively quick recap, hopefully, and just perhaps a reminder of, in my opinion, two of the largest players in the blockchain space when it comes to the energy sector, Powerledger and Energy Web. I'm going to combine the two topics just to make it a bit easier for, well, I guess the production of this video, and to keep it in line with kind of segmenting where some of these assets sit together in these kind of sectors. So these are projects I've held in my portfolio for some time. They have had so many evolutions over the years. It's been exciting to see the journey, but I guess as part of that journey, we're going to focus as well in regards to how blockchain is becoming essential to the modern energy system. Get my words out. Also the benefits. We're going to have a quick cover on infrastructure, businesses, end users, and investors. I think that's quite interesting to see how blockchain with the energy sector affects those different areas, because yes, we're investors, but also we'll see how we can take advantage of this moving forward as well. We'll also have a quick piece about AI again. Some of you have been with the channel for some time. I'll try and leave a link in the middle of this video at some point. The interview that we did with Powerledger a couple of years ago now, but the integration of AI. But we'll just do a quick recap on the AI as a supporting function within the energy sector and blockchain utilization as well. And we'll see what it looks like over the next 5 years. We will do some chart analysis on top of that, the last part of the video. But let's go straight into this topic, guys, and see what this is all about. So the energy system is evolving. The world's power grid was essentially designed for another era. So centralized plants, predictable loads, one-way energy flow. Even if you don't know too much about energy in general, it is a topic I highly recommend to research more on, and certainly the integration of blockchain cryptography, and also the AI aspects as well. So yes, we'll recap some of this anyway today, but it's definitely worthwhile having a look into this a bit more detail, because it's absolutely staggering really what goes on in the energy world, how costs, pricing is structured, how it's formed, how much wastage, not just necessarily of energy, but our money. You see more and more renewables out there, and yet our prices keep going up. So we're entering this new phase, distributed, data-driven. The whole topic around low carbon, of course, is massive. Always these climate change, environmental factors, etc. So a lot of that very much focused on the renewables that I've mentioned, rooftop solar panels, for example, EVs, home batteries, the microgrids. They're all everywhere now, and we're seeing more and more of them in our lives and in our environments. So the traditional systems really can't handle the millions of small transactions that are occurring, or the assets interacting in real time. Now, we've mentioned so many times in the past, and I'll mention it again, transactions aren't just financial transactions. They're a transfer of an action. This could be literally anything. It could be from charging your car, the payment of that. They're two transactions in general. Then there's, of course, the equations outside of that, the battery capacities, all of these things moving about at the same time. So that real-time aspect is really important. That's where blockchain comes into the digital backbone of the modern energy grid. So we have the transparency, the verification, the processing, the secure ledger, essentially, for energy, data, and transactions. So we'll see these couple of links, which I'll leave in the description below. You see the World Economic Forum here, our favorite friends. But there we go. Yes, it could be a market directive, of course, made by those that are up at the top of the triangle. But either way, we see how we can potentially take advantage of this, both as users and as investors. So why blockchain is critical for the energy sector? It brings 5 key advantages to the energy transition that we're seeing today. So you've got the trust and data integrity. So as an example, every kilowatt hour generated or consumed is recorded on an immutable ledger. So this ensures the data accuracy is there and prevents potential fraud. There's so many elements of fraud that can go on in any sector, in any business, and anywhere in the world, of course. But in energy, I think a lot of it's very much under the carpet, and we have an opportunity to bring it to the surface. So you've got automated settlements. So we have the smart contracts aspect of blockchain as well. Transactions can be settled instantly. So there's no waiting for middlemen, intermediaries, loads of paperwork, things like that. The tokenization of energy and certificates. So we'll talk about quickly in a moment about Powerledger's token and Energy Web's token. So projects like these guys, they allow renewable energy to be tokenized as energy attribute certificates. Some people know these as EACs, which makes the trading and verification seamless, a hell of a lot quicker, easy to verify, and as I said, a lot less cost as well. Now, the interoperability aspect is always important in blockchain. So things like Energy Web, or the Energy Web chain in particular, the network that it runs on, can act as a shared infrastructure. So this can connect things like solar farms and EV chargers and utilities and consumers collectively under one standard. And then you've got the decentralization aspect. Whether this is diminishing or not from recent videos that we've been talking about, who knows? But at this moment in time, from a decentralized perspective, instead of relying on central market operators or peer-to-peer energy markets, they can allow peer-to-peer energy markets will allow the operation of autonomy, right? So automation. So this isn't really hype anymore. This is a critical building block for a truly decentralized grid. So first of all, why do businesses and infrastructures need the blockchain? So for utilities, grid managers, and infrastructure operators, blockchain means efficiency, compliance, and accountability. So all these things can cost money, of course, the bottom line for most of these companies, especially in the private sector. But those broken down, you've got lower costs. So automatic reconciliation, replacing the manual billing process, got real-time visibility. So assets are essentially registered and verified digitally. Then you've got what they call the ESG and transparency. So ESG is a massive topic for many years. I think I mentioned in the previous video, I used to call this, I think it used to be called the social, environmental something or other. ESG is very similar. It's just a new narrative directive from those above, trickling down to businesses that people have to adhere to, or there's fines, etc. So that transparency for on-chain data allows that sustainability reporting to be as true as possible and as open as possible. Then the security element, so distributed architecture, this can remove any single points of failure, potentially. So there's a few examples here on the screen right now. Powerledger, the Tata Power in India. So they launched the peer-to-peer energy trading pilot for the rooftop solar users. I mean, there's so many examples from Powerledger. And then here, for example, Energy Web and Shell creating a blockchain system to decarbonize corporate fleets. So these are just a couple of really basic examples. Again, I'll leave the links, do the research for sure, but there's a multitude of them out there. So these aren't experiments anymore. These are early deployments of blockchain infrastructure. This is important. We're talking as an investor, which will come on to in a minute. And then one of the last points here in these breakdowns is the end user, you and I. So how do we become consumers and turn into prosumers? So the blockchain gives end users, i.e. you and I, the more control than ever before. So imagine selling excess solar energy, for example, or from your battery, directly to your neighbor or your community, earning tokens for that stabilization of the grid, but also verifying that your home runs purely on local solar panel. So it can work both ways. Being able to share peer-to-peer, but also seeing the transparency of everything that's going on. So that can come quite beneficial when we come to costs and our bills, right? because I just still don't understand it. I know there's infrastructure costs and everything, but in general, I think wind farms have been around for a long time, as have solar panels, but our bills keep going up. This is all down to the intermediaries, brokerage. It's a faulted system, in my opinion. Maybe blockchain will open it up more, but I guess it depends on who's controlling it, managing it, and what kind of information can actually be distributed. But Powerledger's project in Australia and Thailand, for example, they already allow this aspect. It says lets users buy and sell renewable energy within its communities. And as I said, it's about turning that passive consumer into an active market participant, as in a prosumer. So we could get more control back from this and maybe more of a stabilized approach to our pricing model. This doesn't mean that if I got excess energy, I can sell it on the market for silly money. It'd be a fair system. And I think that could help the world for sure. But as I said, it ultimately helps from the top to the bottom if it works properly. So let's keep an eye on that. But the IEA link here is definitely a good place to start if you want to learn a bit more about that, the peer-to-peer energy trading overview. Then from the investor's perspective, I guess you and I again. For investors, the energy-related blockchains are a rare combination of infrastructure and sustainability. So we know that part. But these aren't speculative meme coins, guys. These are utility, real-world utility and transactional network tokens and coins. So the POWR token and the EWT, respectively, these serve as the economic fuel for their own respective ecosystems. But as adoption scales, demand for these tokens to access or transact on the networks should in theory rise, as well as a requirement to keep facilitating the networks that they are building and working on. So there's a couple of utility aspects of the actual token itself within the ecosystem, but also for us, or serving to us as potential ability to make passive income in the future. Now, from an investor's perspective, that's obviously important because as the demand rises, ultimately the scarcity increases and therefore the price increases as well. We must remind ourselves we're still relatively early in this whole process when it comes to blockchain and the energy sector. It's slowly getting adopted, but the mass adoption could be in the near future. We'll talk about that in a moment as well. But before we do that, let's just quickly mention about AI. So AI isn't the core of the revolution, but it's certainly an optimizer on top of the blockchain. The reason I'm mentioning this is because there are a few AI tokens out there, of course, that can facilitate alongside blockchain. But in general, I think it's important when we're looking at technological advancements combined, it's important. So when we're investing in blockchain assets, we also want to know what else is going on around in other environments, in other markets that can help push not just the price points of the individual tokens up, but the market in general. So AI can predict energy demand, for example, forecast the solar outputs, the balancing of grid supplies, but it does need the secure aspect and verified aspect that blockchain provides. So AI handles essentially the decision making or the predictive element, but blockchain can handle the trust and the settlement and arguably the transparency. So together, they'll automate the entire energy marketplace moving forward. But blockchain is, of course, remaining the foundation, in my opinion. Again, World Economic Forum, unfortunately. But again, the principles are there. If these guys are talking about it, it's going to happen for sure. So the adoptive timeline, I always like to look at things up to 2030 at least because of the Agenda 30 program. And this is where the ESG and the sustainability programs came from originally. Of course, since maybe 4 or 5 years ago up to now, we've been in that expansion pilot programming. We've seen the peer-to-peer trading kind of switched on to an element or a respective element of that working. But we've got renewable tracking, we've got EV integration now, more and more houses with solar panels, etc. But in these coming years, I think we're going to see a lot more broader adoption by utilities, but with national regulators also testing the blockchain for grid management and data standardization. So we're seeing a lot of work with the European blockchain, for example, the consortium utilizing Energy Web as a prime example of taking some of the best in the trade, some of the best in the market to take this forward, to take this pilot forward into real mainstream. So I think by 2030, blockchain will become embedded in the mainstream energy infrastructure. Again, not something that you may see in the world news or anything like this. It will just be a technology that works in the background, right? How many people can tell you how an iPhone works, or all the things that are integrated within it? They don't care. They just want something at the end of it that works and that they can understand how it works, right? They don't need to know the intricate detail all the time. But that being said, there are some elements, i.e. platforms, for example, or brokering systems that we could potentially use as prosumers that we may want to learn more about. So the underpinning everything from energy certificates, grid, flexibility markets, you name it. This is roughly, I think, the path Powerledger and Energy Web are building towards today. You see by their roadmaps, the white papers. I'm not going to go through those. We've done them in the past, but you can get a rough idea of that moving forward for your own research. And then finally, just a quick reminder. So you've got the token mechanics. As I mentioned, POWR, POWR on the exchange, the access and staking token of Powerledger's energy trading platform. They've got the Sparks token, which is a stable currency peg tokens used for the energy transactions. So businesses must hold the Power token to participate in the network. So the multi-chain bridging between Ethereum and Solana is now complete for the scalability aspect as well. So it's really future-proof Powerledger and a POWR token. EWT, the native utility token for Energy Web on the Energy Web chain, EWC, is a blockchain built specifically for the energy industry, used to pay transaction fees, stake for validation, and access on-chain services. Now, the enterprise grade, the EVM compatible aspect of it, is all backed by major partners. We've seen the likes of Shell mentioned a few times in the past, Volkswagen. There's so many that Energy Web relate to. Some are being utilized in the real world scenarios, which is, as I said, you may not have even thought or heard about all this before. It just works. Okay. So in short, those two have always been my pick throughout. There are a couple of other energy based related tokens. I haven't had too much focus on those, but these two I feel like are the big branched out ones just because of their history, the people behind them, really clever people on both sides, and their current or existing market penetration when it comes to real world utility and examples of that. So that's relatively a bit of an overview. Let's have a quick look at the chart. So you can see here, I will start with Powerledger, currently holding the long-term support near these areas. Watch for the volume spikes around here potentially, but I think with this and Energy Web, there's always been a bit of a slow burner in general. I think we're going to see bigger moves maybe in a few years' time, but that's not to say that in the next big bull markets, we can have these potential breakout zones above these kind of areas. And arguably, these are the kind of support levels I'm looking at as well. So this is not financial advice, of course, but these are kind of my areas that I'm looking at where I may have potential sell trade-offs or maybe potential accumulations down at some of these lower areas, because I'm still in accumulation phase for a lot of these assets. I still think there's a few years left for us to accumulate at lower prices, but before we get the full mass adoption, because when that starts kicking in, it become a bit harder to get the lower price points and ultimately hold more in our portfolios. And switching that to EWT really quickly, similar scenarios here, the sideways consolidation forming, but with the breakout above these kind of areas could mark the trend reversal. So I think we might see, who knows when this is actually going to happen. I've been trying to think about November for some time, leading through to April, where we start to see some more traction coming in. I think there's a lot of things going on this month, as we mentioned in the video that I did a couple of days ago, particularly around the 5th of November to the 14th of November. We'll have to see whether that sparks the market up or not is another question and another topic. But looping into next year, I'm hoping that the bull cycle, the bull run begins, the proper one. We'll see if it even exists at all. But very quickly, with EWT here and Powerledger, I think the trends will move with the utility adoption news, not necessarily the short-term hype. So let us know what you think about all this in the comments below. Are you holding either of these tokens? Are you interested in the energy sector and blockchain at all? I think it's fascinating. I think there's so much to it. As I said, watch the introductory videos I've done on both these projects, but also the introductory videos I've done in the past on energy sector, utilizing blockchain and potentially AI as well. Because I think this market is absolutely gigantic, and there's so much you can learn for your own benefit and use as well when this all truly kicks in. So that is the full picture, guys. In a nutshell, businesses will save the money, consumers will gain more control, the investors get early exposure to the digital rails of the clean energy future. If you found this useful, do please smash that like button, hit the subscribe button if you haven't done so already. Make sure you comment below on any questions you might have, any thoughts on the video today, any other things you want us to cover. Let's keep this momentum of information coming through on the energy sector utilizing blockchain. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.